made Cole the host so he can, otherwise you'll all disappear when I do, if we're not quite done.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it is. I think I'm recording. Yeah, I am recording.
Yeah, it says recording.
It says it, yeah.
So good evening to everyone. Thank you again for attending. We haven't got Peter today because he's got commitments in London, which is quite swanky, I think. Just a recap of where we were waiting for a response from the DIO on various things to do with, well, freedom of information that we've asked, and we were asking for responses to yourself, Nigel, and some of the things that you've got. So maybe we start there. Have you had anything we've got from the previous meeting we were asking about?
Well, I've chased up Michael Gove and he hasn't come back, but I think there's maybe a bit of a reason for that. I have actually received today a response from the DIO Secretary Parliament, which, as you would expect, doesn't actually tell me anything. It basically tells me that of the 3 questions I asked, one of which, the last bit, was actually split into 2. One, which was to do with the vandalism costs. Let me just go back. Let me just got to go to another screen and call it up. Technology isn't my greatest issue. Right. Yeah, the first one was on vandalism. Oh, come on, silly. And they're basically saying that under section 12, it's too expensive. Yeah, they hold the information, but the cost of extracting it, locating it, retrieving it is beyond the limit.
Okay, which is a different response than I got.
Yes, it was slightly different to the one that I've seen before. And they've also said the same thing to do with question 3. Now, question 3 was now whether in fact it's because I did this via Michael Gove and he actually, his assistant sent it off on my behalf through him, whether or not that it's changed. But my third question was to do with health and safety, and it was split into 2 parts. And the first one was, I'd request you provide a copy of the H&S executive assessment of the Ash Ranges firing floors and the need for MOD to take the action. And the second was, on the same issue of H&S, we were told that the firing floors at both Stoney Castle and Henley Gate, which form part of the larger ranges, have similar hazards but remain open. Is this correct? Now, they've come back to me and said that, let me see what it says. We'll go back down the page now. It's a lot of waffling. It says, DIO does not hold the information you have requested to Q1 and Q3, which is interesting. You may also find it helpful to know that regards to Stoney Castle and Henley Gate, it is possible to circumvent the existing barriers in this area. However, the existing barriers do act as a deterrent, and these areas do not face difficulties with vandalism. The majority of technical areas across the Defence Trading Estate are either inaccessible or unlikely to be subject to routine public access. But that's not what I asked. I asked about health and safety. So
and it's also not true.
Sorry?
And it's also not true.
Apart from that, yeah.
Because the vandalism photographs that they used in the Guildford Dragon were of Henley Gate.
Okay, well, I don't know that because I don't know the areas as well as you do.
Yeah, and also public access into Stoney Castle is almost identical to public access into Ash Ranges. The only difference is that Stoney Castle is in a less populated area.
That's right, that's right.
But the access is identical, same size fences. Actually, it's a much easier gate to hop if you were so inclined, you know, but there is free public access onto it when they're not firing.
Yeah, but the point I was making was I actually asked questions about H&S, not in respect to what they answered. So yeah, the H&S still is a relevant issue. Indeed. And they responded that it's open because it's not affected by vandalism, but the answer was, why are they open as such, whereas these firing floors of Ash Ranges, they haven't actually answered that at all.
So they are going on about the idea it's vandalism that's the problem, and
well, they're actually saying vandalism isn't a problem at Stonygate because
of the location of Ash Ranges compared to the population.
Because the location.
But they still haven't provided any evidence to support that, and it's very clear that they in the statements that I've been given that they can't produce that information, which is very clear in the response I got. So in essence, that argument doesn't hold any water. There's just no, they can't support their concerns with it costs us £170,000 and here are all the times that it has caused a problem, and they're all to do with Ash Ranges. What is the point? How is that a concern? What, you know?
Well, that's why I went back to Michael Gove immediately. Just trying to find where I wrote to him, because I think I've done about 70 emails today. So I'm just trying to find out where he is. There it is. I said, Michael, this is a modified copy of what has already been published in response to other similar requests. The MOD specifically used the cost figure of vandalism, 171,000 for the 5 years to March 20. This figure surely was based on evidence and not plucked out of the air. Exclamation mark. To say that they do not hold the information on health and safety assessment, which was referred to by Colonel Cook in the open forum meeting in October as being the reason for the closure of the floor ranges at Ash Ranges, is absolutely ludicrous. It is becoming increasingly difficult for Ash Parish Council to mediate in this issue when MOD are deliberately failing to provide evidence for the reasons they have given for closing the firing range. And I've obviously gone on to say about, you know, they're restricting access to Ash residents who have mobility issues and would benefit from the freedom to walk on the flat of the firing floors, both for their physical and mental health. So I've sent that off within about half an hour of getting the report from the MOD, because I was so annoyed.
What date was that, Nigel?
Today.
Oh, today. Oh, right. Okay.
Today at 1:30.
Okay, fair enough. Very good.
3 meetings over. I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to hang on to this, because when Michael's assistant came back and said, with the FOI request, are you happy for it to go in my name? I said, yes, absolutely, if it gives me an answer. But I wasn't expecting this. But there was another interesting point in what came back. There. With regard to Q2, which was about the actual time lost, there was slightly more possibility there.
Time lost as in
time
training
lost
hours.
Training
time
hours
lost.
lost.
Training hours, yeah. Right. The MOD may be able to provide some information in scope of your request if you reduce or refine your request to bring the cost of compliance under the limit. If you refine your request for Q1 to a specific period, such as 1 month, MOD may be able to provide the information to you. Please contact me if you would like to refine your request or require advice in doing so. So I was wondering whether that may well be an answer to try and get Q2 as well in terms of training time lost.
So Q1 being the vandalism cost. We have gone and the FOI list that I sent you, I don't know when it was it Saturday or Sunday, includes all the requests that we as a group have created. We have established from the UTR groups of incidents that were classed as being criminal damage, and effectively put in for up to 5 or so, between 5 incidents per request is what we were grouping them as, rather than creating them per month, because some of the months didn't have any in, so we were grouping them up into periods of time. And that is all in the freedom of information requests. But if you read the request, the response from the response I got over the weekend, they were implying that they would then use, would continue to see them as one request, and basically say that we would still be in the same problem, that we would not be able to spread them out, which is
Not too sure that would be within the ICO legislation, to be honest, because I think if one person asks for an answer to a particular month or event, if a different person writes in and asks for a different event, they can't then lump those two things together.
Well, they seem to think that they can, because according to the letter to Carl, they were saying that they treat it as an amalgamation. So if
aggregations, aggregation of related requests.
That was the word. Yeah.
When the appropriate,
that's what.
So reading from their letter, the public authority is estimating whether the appropriate time limit is likely to be exceeded. It include the costs of complying with 2 or more requests if the conditions are laid out by paragraph 5. So are by one person is the, or are by different people who appear to be the public authority, or relate to any extent to the same or similar information. So
those 2 requests could come from different parts of the country. They can't then link those together just because it relates to.
No, but they relate to any extent to the same or similar information. That's the wording in I'm assuming that's from the standards around freedom of information. So, and like I said in my email to you, if we get knocked back again for that information, and we have to then split it up by time, and there's a 45 day, 60 consecutive days or 45 days per limit, we're not going to get that information. Furthermore, they've said they can't do it.
Yeah.
So
it's perfectly simple that they can't do it because they haven't got it. I mean, that nonsensical phrase about that, you know, when they were pushed to say where this 170,000 came from, it was, you know, there is not a spreadsheet, there is not a balance sheet, there is no accounting process there. It is simply figures plucked out of the air, or what would you phrase? Corporate knowledge.
Corporate knowledge.
No, it's outrageous, really. I mean, no organisation would be able to get away with that sort of behaviour. Allowed to either.
So, as far as I'm concerned,
that is
Nigel,
exactly what he is.
And Joe, I would expect the council to effectively say that those 2 claims for the reasoning are null and void now. If they cannot support them with any factual information, I will just throw them out as being inadequate and null and void. And if that is any sort of evidence for the reasoning, and the reasoning why the council is supporting the closures, and we're not getting any sort of...
The council's not supporting the closures. The council...
No, but there hasn't been any negative statement from the council to say we do not support this, we believe that it should be reopened because of the facts. And that's what I'm saying to you, that at the moment we have got no facts to support their claims, and as a group we should be pushing them to be more vocal in our negative view on the matter, and more vocal in terms of the stance that we're taking. At the moment we're very much within this group, within this forum, and that is all.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think I just had to do what needed to be done from our end, and I think we just need to reassess. I'll wait for Michael to go to respond to that email that I've sent him, but it's becoming increased. As I said, my email to him, it's becoming increasingly difficult for Ash Parish to seek to mediate, when in fact we're not being given any evidence from MOD to justify what they've done. We're just being told this, and it's going to become very, very difficult for the parish council not to openly say, you're not giving us information, mate. You know.
Can we put a
Can
time
I
limit
ask
on
you,
that?
Nigel, if you now accept on behalf of the council that you have asked all the right questions and gone as far as it is reasonable for anybody to be expected to go in pursuit of the finding the reasons, and that since those reasons have not been forthcoming, backed up by evidence, is the council now ready to stand forward and say, we do not support the closure of the ranges and the reasons given by the MOD DIO for that closure?
We've never supported the closure of the ranges.
I'm not saying what may or may not have happened in the past. What I'm asking you is, from this point forward, whether you, on behalf of the council, are now willing to say, we have asked all the questions, we have been knocked back time and again, and we now accept that the reasons that they gave do not exist.
In other words, making a public statement to that effect.
Yeah, in support of the reopening of the ranges, because the reasons
That is something.
were,
That is something that I would have to present to the council, so that all 12 members. I don't speak on behalf of the council when it makes decisions of that ilk. I certainly have become more and more frustrated, and that certainly is something that I would be passing on to the members about where we are at the moment. I still would like to get the final response from Michael to the last meeting he had with Jeremy Quinn, which he hasn't come back on yet.
So what needs to happen?
I'm not going to sign up to something which I can't deliver at the present time.
No, and I think we appreciate that. So my next question is, let's assume that you hear back from Michael at some point. What then needs to happen before Ash Parish Council will publicly state their opposition to the closure?
Let's turn it another way around. If Ash Parish Council were prepared to make such a statement, where does that lead us, us, down the pipe? Where are we going to go when that happens, if that happens?
Well, I think it's about keeping up the public pressure, isn't it? And I think it's incumbent upon Ash Parish Council to state publicly that they've been frustrated in their efforts by the DIO to get to the bottom of the closure on behalf of the residents.
And I think that's what we've always said, Nigel, is that we just wanted a due process. We'd expect to be able to, for any council, for any politician, to be able to support their conversations and their decisions, and anything that is going to affect their residents, they would have a view on that would be in the best interest of the residents. And that's
always been our raison d'etre in terms of just talking to the MOD. It's with the best interest of the residents at heart. That's why it was clear from an early stage that the MOD, for the reasons they gave, were never going to reopen the firing floors in the way they had before. And we tried to persuade them to actually reopen them, but they gave all these reasons why,
which have all now proven to be false. They've not been able to prove that what they said was their actual case. And the fact is that Colonel Cook mentioned health and safety for the first time in October, and yet we've been in discussions with the MOD since April. And so I've lost my track now. I've lost my track. Well, I think it is incumbent. I think it's entirely reasonable that you press ahead with your investigations and you take your time to do that and to have the conversations with them directly that we obviously are unable to have for whatever reason.
But my tracks come back again. So what we were trying to do, and we are still trying to do, is on the basis that the MOD seem totally unwilling and unable, through whatever reasons, to open the whole of the firing floors, we wanted a large segment of the firing floor opened, which protected the actual firing plates. So where the soldiers lay, where the targets are and stuff like that, there's a big raft between two blocks of firing plates, which would actually allow people central egress from effectively where the residents live through the centre of the firing range to get to the ranges beyond, if that's what the RDA beyond, if that's what they wanted to do. but it still would leave them the ability to walk on flat areas, areas that have road in it, so that people that were less mobile would still be able to go up there and have a walk on the flat area, be able to enjoy the views, the trees and things like that, but they wouldn't be able to get onto the two main firing ranges on either side. That's what we're still trying to encourage the MOD to do, if they're going to be unwilling to reopen the whole of the firing place, which I understand is your aim. And
when was the last time you had a conversation with the MOD about that, Nigel?
Sorry?
When was the last time you raised that with the DIO or the MOD?
The last time was our last meeting, which I think, when was our last meeting, Joe? October?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that time, yeah.
And all I can, because it's now, all I'm being told is because it's now the control of Whitehall, i.e. the Secretariat of Parliament, the local MOD team have now got their hands totally tied, and they can only do what they're told to do by effectively HQ in Whitehall. But all the time we're in contact, we keep saying that the perimeter path, which yes, it was something we as parish council said, it would enable more people to get to the ash ranges, the RDA, but it did not allow people in wheelchairs, buggies, people who couldn't walk easily, elderly people, because no matter how much they improve it, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Nigel, I am able-bodied in every way. It is a foot deep in mud. It is impassable even to able-bodied people right now.
Well, that's part of it. I don't
need... for the entire winter. And I think we sort of, the perimeter path is slightly missing the point here, which is we want the ranges to be reopened. That is what we want to do. Now, whether that's an entire reopening or a partial reopening is still up for discussion. And I think we would accept that we need to try and find a compromise, but the DIO have not found a compromise. They have simply they've acted entirely disingenuously without any form of consultation, and we want them to be held to account and brought back to the table to have the consultation that we should have had and find a compromise that will suit everybody. There's no other way for it. There's no, there has to be a compromise. But we are going round in circles. What needs to happen to make that happen? Michael Gove's written to his colleague and requested that he reopens this. What more must happen?
It's not a question I can answer because I just don't happen. I agree. It's always been the case that we've always said to DIO, you did this wrong. You should never have shut it the way you did without consultation.
Right, and so what we're asking is, are you prepared now to say that publicly and to publicly say, we have been in constant conversation, they are not providing us with the information, they are not backing up their claims, we do not support this, and keep the political pressure up. Are you prepared to do that?
What I will do is, I certainly can say that we've been against the closure of the ranges without consultation. That's a fact. And we've discussed that at planning. What I'll do is let me leave it till the January meeting, and I'll put something on the agenda, on the private
for the private agenda or the public agenda.
In fact, there's no reason why it shouldn't be on the public, because we should be able to talk about it as openly in public. Really what's happened so far.
Agreed.
I go so far as to say I think it must be on the public because it is.
No, I think you're right. It's only
of the great public interest.
Well, it was only in case I had to give information to the councillors that is subject to confidentiality, because certain things that are discussed do have a confidential nature and certain assurances have been given. Not that necessarily affects what's happening, but it's certainly information that comes out of those discussions. But certainly within the ambit of the public side, there's no reason why we shouldn't actually have a discussion actually in public about where, as a parish council, we stand now. One, to reaffirm the fact that where, and I think we all are against the fact that they closed the ranges without consultation, but secondly, what has happened since then in terms of the discussions, the requests for information, and the lack of firm documentation to justify the decisions that we're being given. And the fact is, I know you're recording this, but the fact is, it has taken away a large tract of land which residents have had privilege to walk on for not 100 years, but certainly decades.
Hundreds of years, 18, whatever it was when
yeah, so it's 100. Yeah, so but they had the ability to walk on it when there wasn't firing. So that's what I think we'll do. Is I think the best thing is, in order to get a complete council consensus, we'll actually discuss that at a meeting. I know our January meeting is our budget meeting, but there's no reason. It is an important issue that we do need to resolve. At least it will show whatever, if we decide that we are going to come out openly out and say, you're not giving us the information, you're not being open, and you're not being helpful. At least it's out in the open then, and what it potentially means is that communication between the council and the MOD may stop, because we may then be seen as part of the the anti-movement, as it were.
If they
see everybody else.
If we can't have an open discussion with them when they claim to be wanting to have that discussion, and we can't question their motives, what is the point of having a discussion? If we're just going to be patsies for whatever they serve us, then there's no point of having any of these discussions. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to be in there, because it feels like the council have been appreciative of the past, etc., but not pushing them to discuss the reasonings and to hold them to account until we've managed to get all these freedom of informations, and we're at the point where we're at now. Prior to the summer and April, it felt like that we weren't getting the support of the council to question those decisions. So that's why we would certainly appreciate the council meeting, certainly appreciate another discussion around it. And I would go further that we would expect someone from the MOD to be represented at that meeting and start thinking about how we approach that. But I will let you, it's your meeting, Nigel, so I'm not going to push too far for that one. Okay, but as long as we've got an agreement that we are going to bring it to the agenda for the council meeting,
I think we need to. So I'd have left until Michael came back with his answer to the email I sent today. But I think we do have enough sort of information to put to the other councils to see how they want to be represented to the community in terms of where we are. Obviously, we want to try and get the best possible result for the residents.
Yeah, and you can obviously see the residents' view in the main with the protests that happened last weekend, weekend before, the number of people that were involved in that, and the publicity that was involved. There is an awful lot of swell of movement for opening the ranges. So it's certainly in the best, if we have the best interests of the community at heart, those are the voices that we need to allow to be heard. And if there's obviously dissenters, we need to allow them to hear as well.
I don't think anybody would dissent in terms of wanting the ranges open. I think
there are some.
What, who don't want it opened.
Yeah.
Can't see the benefit of not wanting it open, because it's a piece of green and pleasant land that
no, absolutely. I don't support that at all, but there are some.
I do understand the health and safety issues in terms of if people can walk on a firing range, particularly with access if it's in the dark when there's no firing going on or whatever, and they fall down a firing pit. Even if you say Rich Shaw said he thought it was there, you should have seen it. It's not enough for health and safety. We have the same problem we've talked before about play areas and things like that.
But that brings us back to the health and safety report, doesn't it? That
it does. And that's another
everything
thing.
was
That's right,
mitigated
you know.
sufficiently.
But it was Colonel Cook himself who brought up health and safety. Now, if he's brought up health and safety, he needs to justify those words on the basis they've never been brought up before.
And also, it is worth pointing out that from a health and safety perspective, I'm a dog walker. At this time of year, I have to walk my dogs after work in the dark. When I could do so on the pathways, it was perfectly safe. Now I'm picking my way over tree roots, and I've tripped and twisted my ankle numerous times because there's no safe space to do that in the dark other than on the roadside, which isn't safe to let my dogs off on. And it's illegal to let my dogs off on. So they can't get a good exercise, and nor can I.
But as I will probably say in another email, the fact is whether it's 100 people who use a firing range or one, even if one person uses Henley Gate, that would be subject to the same health and safety restriction as ash ranges, as 100, 200 or 300 or whatever. You know, health and safety does not rely on the number of people using something. It relies on the fact that is this safe for someone to use. And if
have we mitigated the risk? Is the
exactly. Now, if you've got the same hazards at the other two firing ranges, and they're saying it's not shut because they're not getting the same vandalism, they're totally ignoring the fact that health and safety would require them to shut it if, in fact, health and safety was the reason for ash ranges to be shut.
That is the only reason they've got left, unfortunately, Nigel. The rest of them have been thrown out the water. And even
they don't have the information.
Even that is dubious because we've asked for reports and we've not been able to find them.
Yeah, it does say, it did say here they do hold the information, but
not on the response I got. The response I got was that it was corporate information and a corporate understanding, and that
it depends who you ask. That's the problem. They do.
But do come back to the points that we've already raised. Is the fact that if they had evidence that could be shown to me, surely they should show me the spreadsheet with the incidents and how much they cost.
Yeah,
it's simple.
First paragraph, it says, I'm right to confirm the MOD holds the information on the subject you have requested. However, I have to advise you will not be able to answer your request without exceeding the appropriate limit. Now, they don't actually mention what it is, but it's a monetary limit. So,
but yeah, the limit is 6 days, etc., isn't it? But I understand. I understand where they're coming from. If we were starting from scratch, but if they've got a figure, someone's added up those figures and presented it to someone to make that presentation.
I know.
That's all I want to see.
Exactly, and I don't think it's unreasonable what's been asked for. Anyway, so I think we know where we're going from here. I shall still wait for Michael to come back, still ask for the results of his discussions with Jeremy Quinn, and I think I did send him a copy of this report, but if I haven't, I will send him a copy of this. No, he has got a letter. They did say that they have actually copied it into Michael Gove as well, so he's seen the letter. So we'll see what he comes back with, if he comes back. But I will chase him up again beginning of next week. I chased him up yesterday, and I'll chase him up again next week to keep the pressure up. But obviously with Brexit and COVID-19, with him now getting involved with the devolved authorities as well, I think he.
But that shouldn't make we've obviously wait until the new year to get those. But that shouldn't stop us having a meeting. We've got enough evidence, as far as I can see, to throw away the claims that have been made, and we would expect.
I think we've got enough. We've got enough information, or got enough statements from them, but we haven't got any evidence now to justify it.
No, we haven't. We have got enough lack of evidence to say that the claims they are making to close the ranges cannot be supported. Yeah, and I was hoping that the Ash Parish Council will be able to do that.
And on the basis, on my particular view, on the basis they haven't done that, then they should now, if they're still adamant in not opening up the whole of the ranges, they now should be looking at finding a compromise that is acceptable to everybody, that allows people who can't use the perimeter path to actually gain access to the flat area of part of the firing floors, to enable them to continue to benefit from the open air. As I said to Michael in the email today. So leave that on with me. And
so one thing
in the new year.
What's the date of the January Ash Parish Council meeting?
11th, I think, isn't it? Nigel?
So I wanted to raise one more thing with you, Nigel and Joe, if I could. The presentation that we've received from the presentation that was given to you, I believe, and to the Guildford Dragon, that we were asked for last week.
Yeah, you've got that
last
now.
week, last time.
Yeah.
On there is a history slide that I can't work out. I think it's around slide 20.
Yeah, it's that handwritten thing, isn't it?
No, there's a history of the engagement.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. Peter sent me.
And it's basically saying that 2016, the untoward occurrence reporting started. 2018, 15th of August, initial meeting with Ash Parish Council concerning intent to secure range floor area, technical area. Now, from our discussions, the first that you knew about this was April 2020, when the closure happened. So is that another lie by the MOD, or is there something that we've not been told?
I think that's not what you've not been told. In August 18, that part of the year, Landmark came to the parish council to advise that they will be doing a lot of tree clearance work to clear away trees that had grown in the wrong place, to take away mature trees that were stopping the military exercises going on, and that they would be required. They would be having to close the gates for public safety whilst they were removing the trees in certain areas. And they said at part of that time they would probably have to make the gates more secure whilst the trees are being taken down to ensure safety. That was all that was about. And the Landmark got in touch with the parish council on several occasions, certainly latter part of 2018 and early 19, to do with this the tree clearance, and part of it was how they should notify residents of what was going on, because the parish would obviously get queries from residents, what's all the trees being taken down and stuff like that. So we told Landmark, where they should put notices and things like that. So that was what they seem to have recorded as meeting or communication with the parish council is not actually about the ash ranges as such in terms of what we're talking about, although about the ash ranges in terms of the trees.
It's a very different story, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, it does. It gives a misleading. It's
very misleading.
When I saw that,
Absolutely.
I was somewhat surprised. And then we move into 2019, and
sorry, Nigel, can I just ask you before we leave the thing from August 18? Yeah. Do you have, or would it be possible to obtain written minutes, records of that discussion with Landmark?
Well, no, because it was not a formal meeting. The Landmark, two of them offered to come in, and it was a meeting which they had with the clerk at the time, and myself being present, talking about what they were going to do, how they should communicate it to the councillors, what notices they should put up. We said, well, send us a copy of the notice you're proposing and we'll have a look to see whether it actually covers the points that need to be covered, to keep residents advised and stop them being concerned and things like that. So it was never formal meetings.
It was just an informal discussion about how they should.
Yes, it's really come in and say, we're going to.
They were doing. Yeah.
We have to do this. As a council, how can we communicate with residents? What can you do to communicate with residents? Because people are going to see all these trees coming down, all these big tree moving trucks moving on and off.
Yeah, I remember they were clearing the path around that time. I understand.
But they're doing it. They're doing it now. They do it. They do it every summer and every winter when they're closed or when the ranges are open.
Yeah, this was particularly a big one, so I understood.
Yeah,
did it annually.
Yeah.
This was a huge one. It covered the whole of Ash Ranges right up to Purbright. They were doing it in particular sections, but there were two main access points. One of which I think was up at I think Heath Valbridge Road. It was certainly an access point that was going to be used quite a lot in Ash. So they wanted to make sure that we knew what was going on. And at that time, I mentioned that they were probably have to make the gates more sturdy because they were too rickety, and they needed to make sure that public safety was paramount.
So
I have to say, if I were you, Nigel, I would be absolutely outraged that the way they've presented this suggests that you, on behalf of Ash Parish Council, have been complicit in the discussions about and agreeing with the discussions about the closure of the ranges floor, when that is absolutely contrary to what actually happened. And I think it's outrageous that they've sort of taken that way of.
I've told you already what's the problem.
Yeah, when it wasn't that at all.
Well, it says history of engagements now in 2014. It's a history of engagement. I don't know who that engagement with, because I was in the council in 2014 and they've never come to the council. It's like the same, you go back to 2019, the gates were replaced, which I think was following on from the 2018 discussions. But when it says engagements with Ash Parish Council, I've actually gone back to the DIO and said, I've been sent this by Peter Corns. I've got nothing in my diary and I've got no record whatsoever of engagements with DIO, MOD and Ash Parish Council. And he sent me a couple of emails, and it was actually an email conversation between a chap called Mark Ludlow, who's DIO, and Graham Bidwell in the Parish Council offices, because Graham he no longer works for the Parish Council, but he uses the ranges. And he'd obviously had a conversation with this Mark Ludlow, and there was some emails going backwards and forwards between him and Graham Bidwell. One in fact said, Graham said, "Oh, if you want to talk about anything on the ranges, yes, we can jack up a meeting. And the best person to speak to at Parish Council will be Nigel Manning as the chairman." But I've never saw those emails because, in fact, nothing ever came out of it. It was a conversation between Graham and Mark Ludlow. So to put these down as an engagement with Ash PC, I have to say is very misleading.
Mm-hmm.
When we go into
20,
it says engagement with Ash PC. The 13th of January date was a date that we had originally jacked up for a first meeting, following on when we had heard anecdotally that residents have been saying that MOD have put up these new gates and they were being told that the ranges were going to be shut. So we sent off an email to MOD and said, we're hearing these rumours, we need to have a discussion to find out what you're thinking of doing, because we need to know what's going on. That meeting, whether that was the meeting we actually wrote and said, can we have a meeting? I don't know, I can't remember now, can't find that one. That was done by Graham, and Graham emails are not all there. I got the emails by Mark Ludlow. But I think the 3rd of February meeting was the first meeting. We organised a meeting. The day before the meeting we were going to have with them, it was cancelled by the camp commander because he had an emergency. So we set up another meeting, and that was cancelled. I don't know whether it was 28th of Feb or 9th of March. I can probably go back to my diary. That was
a pattern emerging here.
Yes.
That was
history of lack of engagement, I'd say.
Yeah,
exactly. That was cancelled because, again, the commander, because he does south of England, he had another emergency at another range. Then we jacked up another meeting for March, and lo and behold, COVID came in and they had to cancel.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, this is not necessarily a fabrication, but it doesn't actually tell the entire truth about these supposed engagements with Ash Parish Council.
I would suggest that they've been misleading and pulling the wool over your eyes and the rest of us eyes for the past year, and trying to divert the conversations to other areas.
I think it's I'm getting when I saw this, I was quite annoyed, to be honest. There's no way I would forget these engagements with the MOD, and I clearly remember the chap from Landmark coming in and saying, "Can we have a," you know, or think they contacted the client, said, "Come in and have a chat about what work we're going to be doing."
But Landmark shouldn't be doing political. You know, they're Landmark. They're not DIO. They're not.
Well, it wasn't political.
MOD.
They were basically, it was more to do with engagement with the public.
Yeah. So so because they had a job to do, the job was to clear those trees. And,
that's right.
And for them to suggest that was, and which they are in this, that this is the first time the Ash Parish Council was told about it, is very misleading. And if this is the presentation they have given to the public, which it is, for their reasonings, I think it's another nail in the coffin, to be honest, with your discussions with the rest of the council.
I have asked.
I'm sorry, I've got to go. So, but thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah.
See you next time.
Sarah.
Thank you. Happy Christmas.
And you. I have asked for an early meeting, whether it's potentially in person or by Zoom, with the camp commander, because I want to actually bottom this out, because as you say, this is misleading. I always see myself, not only do I have to be seen to be white as white, I am whiter than white, and I don't like people giving the impression that things have happened when they haven't, and I do get somewhat terse. So
this is my the point that I was trying to make, that it has been disingenuous on their part for the last 2 years, with the information that they say that had been spreading to the parish council, and my main concern was that the parish council hadn't told the public at that point, but it sounds like it was just never happened. So I appreciate that.
Well, they've taken an email with a member of staff from the parish discussing about something, and then said with the parish council. Well, it's not. It's... So,
and almost implying that you were in agreement with it. I mean, that is certainly one way that it could be read. That you were having these nice friendly little conversations with them, and agreeing what they were planning to do, which clearly is very far from the
totally
case.
Wrong. We'd say we didn't know they were going to be closing it down. It's only when in early 20 a member of the public mentioned it. I think Graham may have seen it on Facebook or something. Oh, did you know the chap at the gate told us that the MOD is shutting off the ranges, and when he told me, I said, get an email to MOD, we need an early meeting to find out what the hell they're doing.
And then it took 3 months to get there because of various things.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so but you're saying, just to finalise that point, so you're saying that the parish council have got very little on any of those engagement prior to 2020 because of the Graham Bidwell's email or something similar.
Graham was one of our officers at the parish, and he was generally the liaison.
Yeah.
Clearly, he was there at the time when the tree works were being done, and he may well have had a contact from the previous clerk to contact someone at MOD Landmark, and they clearly had correspondence in 2000.
Okay, so that I think that's something that we as a group need to look for, Kate.
Yep.
We need to ask for from a freedom of information, and because you don't seem to have it, so we might as well see what the MOD have got for their version of events, just to tie that up into a nice little package of disinformation, effectively.
Yeah, well, so I've asked for an early meeting with the camp commander, Dickie Bishop, I think.
And that was my next step, effectively. But because that council meeting was in there, the next step for us is to try and get a conversation started with the guys that matter. Ask them again their reasonings. Ask them again to justify those reasonings, and to fully understand where they're coming from. And
as I said before, they will no longer communicate with anybody apart from parish council, because they've been told by Jeremy Quinn that's who they communicate. It's only because Jeremy Quinn told them to communicate with parish council they did. otherwise,
and I think we've already, you know, Peter has certainly, and in the email that Michael sent, it is very obvious that he wants the MOD to discuss it with, you know, open up that conversation, not to just to Ash Parish Council, concerned residents. So as long as we can understand that those conversations are happening, they are in a public forum, or you know, at least not just, you know, documented and etc., then we're quite happy. It's because there's not been any minutes, there's not been any video recordings, there's not been any of these things that we just expect from our from these meetings, and to understand those discussions and why they happened, we're just going off hearsay a lot of the time. And that's no disrespect to you guys. I'm just saying that I would expect these things to be documented, and documented thoroughly, when they're impacting so many residents.
well, when Graham was leaving, we got a new member of staff. That new member of staff attended the last meeting, and she now keeps notes. Well, notes were meant to be being kept in all the meetings, but we can't find any notes. We've now got notes. Well, we can remember things that happened, but we've now got a full note of the last meeting that we had. Again, it's just notes, it's not minutes, because minutes means they get past the other side and get poured over and all the rest of it. We've got notes of what we recalled was actually said, and things like that. And that will continue with any other meeting.
And this is the thing, though, you know, that 2018 15th of August meeting, if there was minutes of that meeting,
but
it could be fairly certain that that's the truth.
That was
totally
hindsight. If someone comes in and says, "Oh, you know, thinking of doing so and so," you don't then make notes of it, because you're not expecting it to go, you know, whatever, over tea or whatever. You know, it was just came in for a discussion. It's only when, you know, we're expecting actions to be taken by the parish council or something, which, you know, that we keep notes. It wasn't a formal meeting as
no. But then they've obviously taken it the other way, though, Nigel, and that's the point.
Well, they've taken an email which was clearly just a conversation between a person from DIO and a member of the parish staff as being an engagement. Well, to me, that's not an engagement, that's having a chat.
It's ironic, really, isn't it, that they've got very clear records of something or other happening on the 15th of August 2018, and no evidence whatsoever about vandalism costs and things like that.
Well, as I understand it,
they pick and choose what they choose to record.
That's right. Has anybody got any information on contact with the parish council? Back went this information, and then it's put down as a history of engagement. Well, has to, if you're doing that, one has to look at what actually the contents of those emails are to decide whether is that really engagement or just a side chat.
I'm just hoping that this sort of conversations is the ones that are going to form the conversation with the full council.
No, this isn't. No. But it adds to my annoyance, and it will probably add to the parish councillors' concerns when it's made available, when they're told about it. Okay.
Anything else, Kate? Was there?
No, I think that's fine. Yeah. And then what's the next step for us in terms of, you said your parish council meeting is on the 11th. So what do we?
Well, I think we should have a meeting as soon as possible after that, so that we can discuss how to move forward depending on the outcome of that meeting. Hopefully it will be a matter of discussing when the next steps to get the council backing to move this forward with discussions, etc. But yeah, the 11th being a Monday, isn't it? I presume.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Monday, second Monday of every month.
So let's go for the 12th then. And if that's okay with everybody else.
Let me just check my diary. It's based on the last. Where are we? Based on the last week. Finding time to breathe is interesting. 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Yeah, I can do Tuesday.
Tuesday at 6.
Because I've got meetings on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
All set then.
And you've got a Tuesday one as well.
That's June. What's on Tuesday?
No, I said that, you know, with this proposed one, you've got one on Tuesday. As well now.
Oh yeah. I'll have a full house. I'll just shout bingo on Friday.
So it's Tuesday the 12th.
You didn't want a quiet life, though. I think you're in the wrong vocation if you want to know a quiet life.
Yeah. When you look back, you think, you know, I signed up to this back in 2020. You know, you're a volunteer, you don't get paid, and yet I'm spending more and more time on doing this. But you know, hopefully we'll get decent outcomes from it.
Yeah, I understand your
I
pain.
do what is right.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
O'clock in the evening again on the 12th.
Yeah, that's 6 o'clock.
Yep, suits me.
Yeah, I've got meetings during the day anyway. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, we've got work during the day. I think that 6 is the
Work?
earliest I could
What's
do.
that? Oh, that's the paid work job, isn't it?
Yeah.
That pays the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that. And
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you
you
all.
in
Thank you.
Cheers.
Have a good
Thanks very much.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you very much.
Stay safe.
And
Okay.